Okay, so I'm just going to run down the feature set of the Atlas Manikin, and we thought we'd start with a head to toe. So obviously we've got some hair up on the head here. We've got eyes which actually open. So again, this being an ALS Manikin, you have the ability to have eyes which you can open with a single thumb or finger. You've got both nostrils open here, so again you can pass nasopharyngeal airways, and you'll notice that the oral cavity here, we've actually got hard teeth. So for teaching techniques like the scissor technique for mouth opening, then again, this is very appropriate. We've got a jaw which we can jaw thrust, so we can lift forwards on the jaw to move it forwards. And again, hopefully you can see the amount of movement that I'm getting with reasonable volume and reasonable pressure, okay? And coming further down, we've got a thyroid cartilage here, and we've actually got a cricoid ring with a cricothyroid notch, which you can feel. So again, for some techniques such as burp, again, we've got realistic anatomical landmarks. We're just filming the airway on the Atlas Manikin just to give people an idea. So you can see down here, I'm just showing you the esophagus at the back there, and I'm going to move forward slightly, and you can now see the tip of the epiglottis coming into view. And if I lift up on the epiglottis there, you can see your tracheal rings and your vocal cords. Nice and easy. So I wanted to talk quickly about IV and IO. So just to quickly show you, we've got an IO pod. You can see the IO pod here on this arm. The arm itself will go through 90 degrees for allowed positioning, appropriate positioning by the student, so they can actually demonstrate to you that they know that's what they should be doing. On the other side, you can see that we've got this IV patch here. The IV patch itself leads up to a piece of tubing, which is here, with a lure lock connector on the end, which we can attach to a bag of fluid and then pop it on the floor for it to be allowed to drain through and collect it in a reservoir. So again, nice simple system for our ALS teams, specifically related to pushing drugs or fluids. If I come back to the Manikin itself, obviously we've got realistic anatomical landmarks. So we've got clavicles, we've got a sternum, and we can find the appropriate landmarks middle of the chest. So that's not a problem. Interestingly, underneath here, we've got separate lung tubes. So we've got one going into the right lung, one going into the left lung, and we've also got a bag that goes into the stomach here, specifically again for esophageal intubation. So you would see stomach rise and fall if somebody had put the tube down the wrong hole. So one of the big areas with all ALS Manikins is the power of the Manikin. Now the Atlas Manikin is designed that it can be used either using a mains connector, and you can see I've got one running into the side of the Manikin here, or you can run it off the internal battery. So let me take the mains power out. That was obviously just charging the battery inside the Manikin. And you'll see over here on this side, I've got the on-off switch. So if I turn it on, you'll see that the Manikin powers up. Very, very straightforward. There's a little battery inside. Obviously, if you've got mains power, it's great to keep that trickle charge going. But if you haven't got the mains power available to you, then again, the Manikin will work fine. So no problems there. The Atlas Manikin is designed to work closely with the iSimulate system. So what we're going to do now is we're going to switch over and start and show you some of the ways that we get it to work closely with iSimulate. So here you'll see that my iSimulate system is working, and what we want to focus on now is the connectivity specifically to the Manikin itself. So I'm just going to swipe in from the side, and you can see it says scan for Manikin. So I'm going to push that, and it's brought me up the Manikin that's available to me here. So I click on that, and then I connect, and you'll see that it's now calibrated, and I just say, okay, that's great news. Touch on the screen, and now what's happened is that the iSimulate unit is now also controlling the CPR functionality and the pulses inside the Manikin. So if I feel for where I should normally find a pulse, I've got a really lovely pulse at the moment in this Manikin. I can feel it chugging along quite nicely, somewhere around about 100 beats a minute, but I've got nice strong pulses. Now the pulses can only be found in the neck of the Manikin, They're not available to you in the wrist. And the logic for that is that we want to promote best practice. We don't want people taking pulses at the wrist because they may not be there if a patient's got low blood pressure. So the most logical thing is that we're steering people back to best practice, which is taking pulses here in the neck. The other important piece of the functionality of the iSimulate, and you'll see what's happened now that we've connected, is that we've also got this little box that's arrived here, which is showing us the depth of the compression, and actually it also shows us our ventilatory volume. So I'm going to do a few chest compressions now, and we'll carry on filming the screen so that you can see what happens. So here I go with my chest compressions, and you can see each chest compression, you can see the depth of the compression, you can see the rate of the compression, and at the moment you can see, so I'm going at about 5.5 centimeters in depth with a rate of about 100, and so I'll speed up a little bit more to get as close as about 120, and I'll push a little bit deeper, and you'll see that the perfusion index has also turned white. So again, you can see the little white dot there that's showing each of the compressions and the fact that I am maintaining cerebral perfusion with these chest compressions. So from a compression point of view, you're getting all of that data now put through the iSimulate itself. Other things that we've got, let's just get a bag and mask and we'll show you the way that the ventilator works. Okay. So if I can get my faithful assistant to come and help me just by squeezing the bag. I've got a double-handed CE grip. I've got a nice control of the airway. So again, with each of those squeezes, we're seeing chest rise and fall. But also, again, if you focus back in on the iSimulate, what we'll show you is the volume that each of those is delivering. And you can actually see next to the word ventilation, is how much air is being squeezed in and out of the Manikin with each of those attempts. So you can see we're getting nice ventilation, good movement, and we're actually able to record the amount of volume that's going into the Manikin. So one of the other functions that you'll see is that when my hands are in a good position on the iSimulate unit, you can see a little green dot coming up for every compression. But if I move my hands in the wrong direction, so let's say I go too high, you can see that that then turns red. If I go over to the right hand side, then again you can see it moving across, and the same if I come across to the left hand side or too low. So again, we have all of this information built into our iSimulate system showing us good or bad hand positioning. So one of the other great functionalities, because the Atlas Manikin is linked closely with the iSimulate unit, is every compression that we give will actually bring up compression artifact on the ECG, same as it would in the real world. And obviously that will stop the student from actually staring at the screen. I'm just going to demonstrate that for you now by doing some compressions. And there you can see nicely that the ECG itself disappears. If I do really deep compressions, you can see again a slightly different shape on the CPR waveform. If I go shallowly, you can see. So again, the great thing about this is we're teaching the students to actually use the CPR waveform, and it gets them away from staring at the screen, which we know happens with a lot of other ALS Manikins. Each one of those waveforms is an exact compression that I'm delivering on the Manikin. So one of the other functionalities that you get, and we've got our faithful assistant bagging for us at the moment, you can see here that each of the ventilations that he gives, we've got a volume, and obviously we've got a capnography trace that matches the rate and the volume that's being given. So our respiratory rate here is being triggered by the ventilations, and what we'll do in a second is we'll actually stop ventilation so you can see the respirate drop down to nothing. But here's our tidal volumes. So now you can see as we stop ventilation, so the respiratory rate per minute is starting to drop down, and obviously that will go down to 0. So it's got foam legs, so that, you know, the whole idea of this is that it's easily transportable. So the legs just pop over the shoulders, which I'm sure is a technique that many of you are familiar with. And then that in turn goes into the carry case, which you can see next to me. We'll do a quick photograph of it all packed away. Also, thing to remember is that it does come with a few spare pieces, again, to allow you to make things like the intraosseous infusion a little bit more difficult. Okay, so we've got to the point of putting him into the bag. I was able to do this on my own, so it's light enough that a single person could actually pick up the Manikin and pop it into the bag. Other things that I'm going to put in the bag is the accessories, things such as one of the little bits here allows me to make the intraosseous deeper or more superficial to make the IO infusion a little bit harder. So we'll put the accessories box in there, and also obviously the charging lead, which is quite important. I don't want to forget that. So popping those in, putting the feet down either side of the head, just like so, and then I'm able to zip up the bag. And you see now that we've got the Manikin nicely packaged for going away. I'll just roll it over just quickly because I do want to show you that the bag itself has these super robust wheels on it, which allow for us to transport it easily as a single operator. And what I would normally be doing is taking this case with the iSimulate case. That's my full ALS centre, literally just in 2 bags.